All right, let's get our other Facebook groups up in here. Then we can start the show. All right, boom, boom. Welcome in, welcome in. It is Monday morning, the 16th of October, and it's time for an episode of Broncos for Breakfast. I am Nick Kendell, writing solo today. Scott is out. He is doing traveling baseball stuff with the kiddos and not at a location that is conducive to doing a live stream. Bad internet, not a good, area to record. So here I am doing solo today. Probably do about half an hour, 40 minutes. We'll see how the super chat's going, how the conversation is going. And we are talking a little bit of Denver Broncos today. Obviously, of course, we might start looking ahead to the Packers, the week that was, and start looking ahead. The trades are probably coming sometime soon, maybe this week. And we can even get into a little bit of NFL draft if you guys so choose. Obviously, that is something that I love talking about. So if I'm writing solo, we might have a little bit of draft talk at some point. Sorry for the people who get upset about that. It's too early for the draft. It's never too early for the draft. And let's say hello to some folks coming in as I got cat hair floating off my hat here. There we go. We got Denver Luke coming in here saying, good morning, Nick and Scott. Hope you all are doing well. Well, I'll pass along the message to Scott, of course. Good to see you too, Denver Luke. Hope you're doing well. We got our guy Jeremy Sean coming in saying, morning, boys. Nick, after watching Washington in person, rank Williams, May, and Penix Jr. if you're drafting for the Broncos. You have them listed as such. I would go Williams, May, and Penix Jr. Penix is a very good quarterback. He has some injury concerns, a little older. His throwing motion is a little bit wonky. It works for him, but I would go Williams, May, very close. And then Penix Jr., I think, is a borderline first round pick kind of guy. So back on the first, honestly, my quarterback 3 right now is probably would be JJ McCarthy. But we have a lot of football yet to go and meaningful football left to go with a lot of those guys. We got Zach Powers in the house saying morning. Mock draft Monday. Well, I think we'll talk a little bit of just what the beginning of the draft is looking like right now. Obviously, things can change, but Broncos look like they are hurtling towards a top 10 pick. Just how high? Hard to say. There's a lot of bad teams right now. I mean, we all saw what New England looked terrible yesterday against the Vegas. Giants lost again. Bears lost. So we'll see. We can look at the top 10 as well. Gatorade Gaming coming in saying, good morning, Nick and Scott. What's good, Broncos country? A Sunday without a Broncos loss. That was very nice. It was got a lot done heading out to Denver Tuesday morning. So going to be out there for the meet and greet. So it should be a lot of fun and be gone a lot this week. Sorry, folks. Nick's last vacation until the baby comes. But yeah, we're going to be hanging out and enjoying Denver. And hopefully a lot of you guys come out to the meet and greet. Bama X in the house saying, good morning, Broncos country. Good to see you, Bama X. We got Jamal Killings in the house saying, morning, Broncos country. Great to see you, Jamal. David Youngkin in the house saying, good morning. Conga saying, let's ride. We got Gatorade Gaming saying, may next streak of the Broncos games continue. We should center the rest of the games to ensure a top pick. Might have to lose a lot of games to get there. We have Gordon Basia coming in here. Baccia coming in saying, man, wish we had Cleveland's defense unreal. Yeah, they are the best defense in football right now. Myles Garrett is playing at an unbelievable level. Zadarius Smith, Denzel Ward. I mean, that's Jim Schwartz has got that team humming. But Myles Garrett for definitely my vote for the defensive player of the year if the season ended right now. Conga comes in and says, what winning team would want any of the Broncos players? I mean, you get a supplemental piece here and there. I think a lot of guys would be of value to other teams. If you need, you're looking for a wide receiver 2 or 3, somebody who can bring a little bit of physicality, you would be interested in Sutton for a day 3 pick. If you're a team that runs a West Coast offense, that's a lot of quick pass game concepts, I could see wanting Jerry Jeudy. Team they're hurting on linebackers that just need some steady presence. I would want Josie Jewell. So not difference makers per se, but guys who can supplement your roster and maybe give you another flavor, an area that you can go. So, I mean, there's players that are not true difference makers. You're not going to get the capital that you got for Von Miller or Bradley Chubb, but thinking more like the Emmanuel Sanders trade or the Demaryius Thomas trade, maybe even to a lesser extent on the return. But those are the types of moves that you're talking about here. For the Broncos, with the potential trades and whatnot coming up, let's just running down the chat here, seeing who came in. We got Michael coming in. Michael's probably breaking the seal here with the super chats. Thank you so much, Michael. Says, good morning, Nick, on Broncos for breakfast. Go Broncos. Good to see you, Michael. Hope you had a great birthday. Hope you got to celebrate it this weekend with no Broncos stuff. Conga comes in and says, let's start talking about the 25 draft now as well. What is it? Shadir Sanders, right? That's what everybody wants to talk about. Albert Knopper's in the house. Good morning, Nick and all fans. Good to see you, Albert. Always great to see you. Arlie Tucker's in the house saying good morning, Nick. Good morning to you, Arlie. Hope you're doing well. We got Akey Dragons. The Walmart Broncos are just what I needed to quit watching the NFL. We'll have you back, Akey. You're in here hanging out with us, so the fire for the Broncos still burns. Unless it's just you have a crush on me or Scott or something. That's understandable too. Keith Brugman coming in saying good morning to all the MHH fans and friends. Good to see you, Keith. Gary Fire comes in and says, go Broncos. Philip Ferris coming in and saying what a lot of Broncos country is feeling, just the general sentiment right now, saying pull the Band-Aid off, rebuild. It probably should have been something that happened a while ago. It's really the only thing the Broncos have yet to do in this era of inadequacy and incompetency is the true, we are rebuilding, talk to the fans. Elway always treated it like a dirty word. And then you came in and had some, in theory, I guess, had some pieces. And then the Broncos went for it with Russell Wilson, only to have it come crashing down. And a lot of those pieces that you thought would be difference makers end up being mediocre, overpaid, unhealthy players. So, yeah, it's probably is time for the true rebuild. I hope fans understand what that means for the Broncos, because a true tear down rebuild, including the Russell Wilson contract, probably means not really fielding a super competitive team until 2026, 2025 at the earliest. And that's a lot of bad football between then and now. Easy to say in hindsight, we've already had bad football. It's a little bit more, but it can definitely be pretty rough. So I think you got to understand. And if you are going with the rebuild approach, have some patience and perspective, because it can work. There was somebody in here, I don't remember who it was, a couple weeks ago that said oh my gosh, who is rebuilding? How can you do that? It doesn't tend to work. But you have Jags totally. Were they rebuilding? I guess they were rebuilding because they had that Saxonville era that was great. But then they tore it down and then rebuilt, and now they are 4-2 and looking pretty darn feisty. You got of course, the rebuild of the Detroit Lions, which is probably the single best example right now. The Lions playing as good as football as anybody, and they really did go for the rebuild. It wasn't just like a passive move. No, they sold an asset to go for it, and they've hit those picks as well. There are no guarantees on that, but I think a lot of Broncos country is in the try something phase of the fandom. And as Philip says here, pull the Band-Aid off and rebuild. Well, that would likely mean some trades are coming here this weekend. Colin Wood said, hey, look, even the 49ers, Eagles, and USC lost this weekend. Nobody's invincible. That's why we love the game, right? That's why you don't play it on computers. You play it on the field. And a lot of good football games this weekend. I was blessed enough to have tickets to that Washington-Oregon game this weekend, man. Talk about a mind melt for this Iowa Hawkeye fan. You can try to score points. Who knew? Matt Henry coming in here saying, when do you think they will bench Wilson so he doesn't get hurt? So I have to pay him more if he stays healthy. That's a very interesting question, Matt, and something that we might have to have a discussion here at some point coming up that's much bigger than the time, or much more robust than the time I'm about to give it here. Because I haven't thought about it that much, and B, I think it does involve a lengthy discussion. So why is Matt asking this question? The Broncos are on the hook for an injury guarantee for Russell Wilson if he gets hurt this year. I believe it's for a $37 million guarantee hit that would be spread over 2024 and 2025. I could be mistaken on the exact numbers, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. So why would the Broncos bench him? If Russ doesn't get injured, then you can move on from him after the season with a post June 1st designation. It is going to be extremely pricey. You're talking about $50 million dead cap hit that will be spread somewhat evenly, but that's a massive hit to your ability to field a competitive roster. Hence why I said Broncos perspective maybe needs to shift to 2026 if you really are for that true rebuild, because it's going to be hard to field a good team with that much dead cap. But if you could want to do that and bench Russ, then you're protecting him from the injury guaranteed. What's the soonest you could see that? If he continues to play like he did last week, it wasn't the best game plan week last week by no means. Nobody was really playing that great, not a lot of separation, but the offensive line outside of McGlinchey did okay. Russ had, I think, 3.04 seconds in his average time to throw, and the average in the NFL, I think, is 2.8. So it's not like he's getting pummeled as soon as he hits his drop back. I'm more so seeing him drop back, knock it off his read, and then look to bail the pocket, even when he has time. So, uh, obviously, a little bit more nuance than that with football, but I think that you definitely could see that as far as the Broncos schedule when they could move on from him. Oh, man, I think you're looking at week probably 12, 13. If the Broncos are absolutely terrible, then and Russ plays like he did versus Kansas City, that stretch like at Los Angeles, at Detroit, New England, Los Angeles Raiders, you might be talking potential Jarrett Stidham, not because Jarrett Stidham is the better quarterback option for the Broncos per se, but just to protect the team if they are set to move on from him. You guys might recall last year, and gals might recall last year, the Raiders did this with Derek Carr. They benched him in the last game of the season to protect themselves from injury guarantees kicking in. For the Broncos, that might also be the case. I mean, $37 million. If he gets hurt, you are married to him for 2024, 2025 as well. I mean, it's already nearly impossible to move on from him now with the massive dead cap hit. With 37 million more on top of it, it wouldn't happen. So it is just a moving on from that. We got Akey says, like you and Scott 100 times more than the Broncos, Nick. Well, we appreciate that, Akey. B. Ritz coming in saying, good morning. Want to lose the rest of the year? Caleb would be nice. Caleb would be nice. Absolutely. Gatorade comes in and said the quarterback needs time to develop. Yes, he does, especially if it's a highly drafted one. Those guys get a little bit more of a runway. We got Ali G coming in saying, bye-bye, Judy. We got Arlie coming in and said, if we don't get the top pick, no Williams, no May, what position do you think would help the Broncos the most? They really just truly need building blocks. I guess in theory, if I could, apparate a perfect player at a position that's not quarterback, it would be edge rusher. Interior defensive line's there too, but probably edge. Like if I could just the next Myles Garrett, plug him on the roster. God, sign me up. I would be totally for that. But I don't think there is a true superstar edge in this class. There's some pretty good ones. There's first rounders, no doubt. But I don't think there's that true, oh my God, that guy can lead any single defensive line in the NFL type of talent. So edge would be up there, but really just need good players. I mean, Marvin Harrison Jr. would be incredible. Another long-term offensive lineman would be great. We'll see, though. Really, I mean, the Broncos could be picking anywhere from 1 to 12 at this point. There's so many one-loss teams. The Broncos could easily get to 2 losses. And I don't know if you guys have been paying attention too much, but because of the Broncos' strength of schedule and how good the teams they're playing have been so far this season, any tiebreaker, Broncos are probably going to be in trouble with down the line. I guess I'm looking at it right now, and they hold the tiebreaker over almost a lot of teams here. But 5.42, we'll continue to monitor that and see how the Broncos' strength of schedule plays out in those tiebreakers. But right now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 one-loss teams. Broncos with the 3rd overall pick. A lot of football yet to go. Alan Forrester coming in here saying, morning, Nick, good, or as we are seeing now, bad Denver Broncos. It is interesting to watch the Jags and Lions coming back from the doldrums. We are heading there for a few years. Yep, they definitely turned it around pretty well. Also want to give a shout out to the Jets. I mean, what a win this week. God, who did the Jets beat? A team that they should not have beaten. But they're playing pretty darn good football too. And that was the worst defense in football just 2 years ago. And now they are pretty damn good. Ian Logan saying, get Drake May built from the trenches out on both sides of the ball. Mims, Drake, McLaughlin are the core of the offense. You probably still need somebody else there. I feel like McLaughlin and Mims are good pieces, but they're not guys I don't think the offense runs through. They're kind of complementary weapons in my book, but you get the quarterback there and have good trenches, you can go a long way. Yeah, San Francisco is also a good rebuild example. I can't believe how good they are despite... Oh, yeah, it was San Francisco the Jets beat. Brock Purdy looked a little human there. But, yeah, pretty interesting there. We got Clyde coming in here with the Drake May picture. Says George Payton might be the worst GM of all time right now. Yeah, he's struggled, but I don't know about the worst all time. But it's been poor. And give me a second, guys. I need to wet the whistle here. I think Michael's coming in here saying, what has more value, the head coach or the quarterback? In college football, it's the head coach. In the NFL, it is by far the quarterback. They're on the field. So they're the ones who matter. Miranda comes in and said, we don't know what Penner's going to do. Could guess Bolin because we knew what he'd do in history, new ownership, unpredictable. Yeah, we will see what happens here with this offseason. Could be a slow build. I mean, we did see, not to put anything, I guess, out there or any rumors to this, but we saw Frank Clark give some money back to the Broncos. That way he could be released. Maybe with Russell Wilson's contract, something would happen this offseason to make it easier for them to part ways. So that way Russ can get to a more competitive situation, because that's not where the Broncos are at or heading in the immediate future, at least. Lance Johnson saying, top of the morning, Nick, do you see a case where Wilson would or could restructure his current deal? I'll just kind of talk about that. What would it look like? For Russell Wilson to restructure his deal, I think it's unlikely in a scenario the Broncos keep him, because a lot of times you see the restructures and teams will kick more guarantees later down the contract, which gives the player a little bit more stability. Like, they're less likely to be cut with guarantees kicking up, because then the dead cap hit goes up. I can't see the Broncos tying themselves further to Russell Wilson in the future with how he's playing, how he has played, his age, et cetera, in order to free up a little bit of cap space. So maybe you see something like Frank Clark where he agrees to give a little bit of the signing bonus back to lower the dead cap hit. So that way he can move on to another team. Unlikely, but I mean, who knows? At this point, we are really in uncharted waters with this Russell Wilson thing. So I do think that it's unlikely, though, as far as the restructure goes, with restructuring it to put more guarantees in the contract to raise his dead cap hit. It doesn't seem likely. And if Scott was here, he would say, don't do that. We got Joey coming in and saying, I wouldn't put no rookie franchise quarterback behind a crappy offensive line. Seems to destroy their confidence and could get hurt, then become a bust. I'm not going to sit here and say the offensive line has been great this season, Joey, but Russell Wilson has at least before yesterday, I haven't looked at the data today, but before yesterday, he had the third highest average time to throw in the NFL, and a lot of his pressure numbers came beyond 2 points. So PFF separates, they have a category of statistics where they separate pressure based on 2.5 seconds or less. Typically, that's the offensive line's fault. 2.5 seconds or more tends to be more on the quarterback. And Russell Wilson has a massive discrepancy in pressure rate from one of the highest in the NFL, from the less 2.5 to more than 2.5, which would indicate that a lot of the pressures on Russell Wilson are associated with Russell Wilson not getting rid of the football. Again, it's more complicated than that, but at least the numbers kind of point to, okay, well, something's going on here that would point away from the offensive line. So we'll continue to monitor that and see how it plays out for the Broncos. And no, was the Jets who beat Philly? I mean, gosh. Oh, okay. Jets beat the Eagles, man. Good for them. Well, unbelievable. And Cleveland beat the 49ers. See, Broncos don't play for a day, and the baby on the way, you got me busy doing other kind of work this week. Lars says Russ needs to teach a younger quarterback first before he leaves, and he won't restructure, give him a lot of charities in the community. We'll see. I think the quarterback, especially with Russ's history, he's not here to teach a new quarterback to come in. I mean, he's going to be, if he is here next year, he's preparing to start and win games, not as a mentor or a guide. I mean, you can kind of like watch what he does from the background and whatnot, but he's not going to go out of his way to set up his replacement. I can't see that being what they do in this game. So, or if that was the scenario. So I guess it's possible, but who knows? Keith says, I say if you want to move on, you still keep him one more year. You'll likely need to transition into your new quarterback, and it would make sense for Russ to be that guy. Secondarily, if you bench him halfway through the season next year, you have a potential neighboring tool for Russ to give back money in order to facilitate a trade. Yeah, the concern with that is that on the 5th day of the league year this year, you get $37 million more guaranteed that go to him. So do the Broncos want to pay that extra $37 million just to hold on to him for one more year? I don't know. We will see how it plays out. Ian comes in and says, the happiness I felt after we got Russ will be the same happiness when he's gone. Yeah, talk about a turnaround there, unfortunately. Mike Edel coming in with the $10. Thank you so much, Mike. Making me feel like you guys are here for me, not just Scott. No, at the $10, we really do appreciate that. With the super chat, shout out to you. Says, good morning, Nick. Good morning to you, Mike. Thanks for flying solo. Didn't have to, but no, we're here. I'm going to be here half an hour. We'll hang out. It was the Eagles that beat the Jets. Made me feel a little better. Russ has had plenty of time. Offensive line isn't awful. I mean, let's be fair both ways. Offensive line, Mike McGlinchey specifically in pass protection has been awful, and the Broncos have not gotten what they paid and hoped for, and that looks like a pretty bad signing right now that I'm going to put more on Sean Payton than George Payton. especially given the long-term commitment that contract means you have to Mike McGlinchey. And we'll come back to that at some point when we're talking draft here. But yeah, the offensive line I don't think is awful. I think they're probably about average right now. I think a bigger issue is in this last game, at least, guys getting separation, specifically your auxiliary pieces, and Russell Wilson just trusting to get through his reads and seeing the field. I think another huge issue is the pre-line checks. I mean, you're just not seeing that with this offense, which is pretty shocking considering how much you saw it with even like Jameis Winston and Teddy Bridgewater with those New Orleans teams, but especially Drew Brees. And now we're not seeing that at all with Russell Wilson. The pre-line checks getting into the better looks based on what the defense is showing. That's surprising. I mean, it was a Thursday night game at Arrowhead, so you're not going to see the pre-line checks as much, but that makes you wonder how much Sean Payton trusts Russell Wilson, what he's capable of in terms of the full arsenal of the playbook. Because I mean, a lot of those pre-snap checks are a big part of the what we saw with Sean Payton in New Orleans and whatever quarterback was under center. So we'll see. But offensive line much better in run blocking too. Zaya Stacks coming in and says, "Good morning, Broncos country. Hope you're doing well." We got to Lawrence saying, "It's me, Nick. Facebook problems with my old account." Well, Lars Rents, good to see you. Always fun to hear from you. We got Nathaniel Kata coming in saying, "No offensive weapons for Wilson. How does he succeed?" I mean, we kind of saw in New Orleans a lot of times there was a lot of lack of true unique offensive weapons. I would say the cupboard isn't bare here in Denver. We've seen some bare cupboards in Denver. I can't remember what season it was. Was it like the end of 2017 or 18 where it's just practice squad guys here left and right? I mean, you still have Judy, you still got Sutton, who are number 2, number 3 kind of caliber receivers. And Williams and McLaughlin look pretty good. I also think the run blocking has been good as well this season. So, yeah, I think he's been okay so far, but the Broncos got beat up pretty darn good. They didn't have a lot of answers for that Kansas City game. Looked poor in the week prior as well. It's a trend now, but we'll see how it continues. I think the offense is average. How much of that is Wilson being good? How much is that the scheme? You guys, everyone drink. Nick's favorite catchphrase. Want to see a little bit more of the sample size coming in on that one. And Jeremy comes in and said, if we draft a quarterback with our top pick and move on from Russ and sign a veteran to mentor him, also our quarterback coach is a veteran quarterback. Also, Sean Payton can handpick a guy. So we'll see. We'll see if it plays out. We got KB82 saying, what happened to Mims? Is he in the doghouse? I am very curious what happened with Mims in this last game. Maybe some of it was Kansas City just, living to take away the deep ball on that one, saying we're not going to get beat up over the top with Mims, make Russell Wilson march the ball down the field, something that he has struggled with, specifically if you're leaning more pass than run. And coming off the game with the 2 fumbles, maybe he is a little bit in the doghouse. Long term, hopefully that's better for him to, be told that's unacceptable, because it definitely seems like it hurt in the short term for the Broncos against the Chiefs. We got JR coming in saying, do you think play verbiage is too difficult for Wilson? Maybe dumb it way down. Seemed like 2 or 3 weeks ago, the Broncos already talked about doing that. So I'm thinking maybe you're already there with the trying to simplify some of the stuff, but it's impossible to say unless you're in the room. But there had been talk about that from George Payton, kind of simplifying some of the stuff. So and we'll see. And getting to it, so the Broncos, obviously, there's been some talk from, Jeremy Fowler at ESPN, Tom Pelissaro, of course, talking about the Broncos looking to be shoppers now that the team is 1-5 on the season, 6 weeks in, and the schedule just ramps up and is insanely more difficult than it has been so far. And the Broncos potentially being sellers this week. I do think that we're going to see a move sometime over the next 72 hours. And right now, if you put me to it, put the screws to me, I would probably say Jerry Jeudy is out in Denver. People asking about wanting more Marvin Mims. I think it's probably time that Jerry Jeudy is going to be the guy who shipped out. Broncos took him when Elway was here. So he's already in-house. He wasn't approached with a new contract like George Payton. He wasn't somebody that the Broncos, have seemed to be enamored with the potential compared to what Broncos country has seen. I still think Jerry Jeudy is extremely talented and could be a low-end number 1 on some teams, or a very good number 2. But I think with where this Broncos offense is heading in terms of the 12 and 21 personnel with Sean Payton, a little bit more under center, deep play action shot kind of offense, I think is what they want to be. And that has not been Jerry Jeudy. Now, your ability to beat man coverage without Jerry Jeudy, I think is going to drop a lot. You're going to see defenses play the Broncos a lot differently if you did move on from Jerry Jeudy, because he is your man coverage key. I guess you can say you can unlock man coverage. But I think that just with where he's at with his contract, all the, not that he's been, people make him out like he's out here committing crimes sometimes. That's not it. I mean, would I like Jerry Jeudy to stay off Twitter some and maybe show a little bit more self-awareness and maturity? Yeah, but I mean, I'm not super worried about the off-field stuff. I mean, just you got to have a little bit more wherewithal. Like, you know what? Maybe don't tweet Mark Schlereth. Maybe don't tweet at Philip Lindsay. Just, go out there and let your game talk. But, every dude's individual and he's not out here, being a horrible, detriment to society. I think he's just a little bit, a young kid still, and Denver's not been the best place for him to grow maturity-wise, at least so it seems so far. So hopefully, if the Broncos do move on from Jeudy, it means good things for Jeudy long-term, because I'm not cheering against him. And what could the Broncos possibly get for a Jerry Jeudy? There was talk that the Broncos had 2 second-round picks on the table this offseason for Jeudy, and then held out, and we're really hoping for a 1. Now we're probably talking about a 4th-round pick for Jerry Jeudy. Maybe you end up even getting less than that. I would be hoping for a 3rd, but I think it's probably like a 4th-round pick and like a future 5th or multiple early day 3 picks for Jerry Jeudy, which is really unfortunate. You're kind of fumbling the bag there for George Paton and the Broncos to lose that much value on a trade for Jeudy, but he's not played well this season. You've had the obvious unhappiness that seems to be going on with his current situation in Denver. Also, just the way the 5th-year option coming up here. The Broncos exercise the 5th-year option. That's a lot of guaranteed money that the next team is going to have to take on. So I think he's probably gone. Probably it's for I'm thinking round 4 plus another pick around 3, but not going to be a huge return for Jerry Jeudy. It's more honest. It's honestly as much freeing up salary cap for next season and just getting a few more darts of young players to help you turn this roster around. We got Pearl Heater in the house with the lovely looking corgi, I think, there, saying hi. Good to see you, Pearl Heater. Michael Ronquillo saying, would you draft wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr. over Caleb Williams or Drake May? I personally wouldn't right now, but just because quarterback is so valuable. And I like Caleb Williams and Drake May a lot, even though Caleb had a bad game this week. Broader sample size says that he's a supreme talent. There's flaws, and we're going to have a chance to talk about them a lot as the season goes along, probably. But no, I would not take Marvin Harrison Jr. over either of those quarterbacks in this class. That has more to do with how much I like the quarterbacks in this class than anything about Marvin Harrison Jr. He's amazing. He's probably my favorite wide receiver prospect I've ever watched. We got Johnny saying Wilson started his career having a hard time seeing over the line. Seemed to fix it for many years. How come he can't see once again? Any idea what's up? I would have to go back and see what the data looks like. I think the bigger issue is that he was still having issues over the middle of the field, but teams were playing much more aggressive cover 3 style defenses, and he had beast mode as well in the backfield. So he was able to, he didn't have to throw the middle of the field balls as much as teams are dictating that in today's NFL. There was much more space vertically in between those cornerbacks and that single high deep safety in cover 3 looks. Now that teams are playing more cover 2, cover 4, 2 high safety looks, where the ball should go based on coverage is probably a lot of those spots over the middle of the field, and Wilson struggled with that. The Broncos also have struggled with guys making things happen in those situations as well. I mean, Wilson hasn't been the most accurate or timely in those throws, but you have Adam Troutman in the middle of the field, or Jerry Jeudy, who's not been, very physically imposing over the middle of the field. Who's creating after they get the ball there? You don't have that kind of guy, it seems like. K-Op coming in saying, why doesn't Russ use his legs anymore? Seems like he was successful on a TD drive doing it. Hacken completely took his confidence away. I just think he's lost a step, too. I mean, he still can from time to time, but it just doesn't look the same as far as the athleticism and the burst. He's not as springy as he was when he was in Seattle, especially, when Seattle was at their peak. He just looks like a solid quarterback, but somebody who just doesn't have that explosiveness anymore. So, and probably, I don't think he'll ever be that guy. Again, that's one of the reasons that he might be looking to move on from him. I just don't see him being that kind of player. Larry Archer says, "What's up, Nick? What, in your opinion, do we do to keep Russell Wilson and draft a young quarterback, or simply trade or cut Russ and draft a quarterback? Go Broncos and never for the tank." Completely depends on where they're picking in this draft. You really do have to make a big decision this season with him, and we have a lot of games left to see how he plays. So it could be a myriad of options right now. If you're picking one or two, you're probably moving on from Wilson and then taking the quarterback and taking it on the chin cap wise for a few seasons, but not bypassing the opportunity to take one of those quarterbacks. But a lot of options right now. It's a really deep quarterback class too. The Broncos not having a number two kind of makes it hard in terms of the deep quarterback class because they can't like move back up into one. But we're watching for Quinn Ewers. We're watching for JJ McCarthy. We're watching for Cam Ward. We're watching for Michael Penix. We're watching for Bo Nix. We're watching for Duke or Riley Leonard out there at Duke. So a lot of quarterbacks. Michael Pratt, Tulane. I believe it's Michael Pratt. So it's a solid group of quarterbacks. Broncos are going to bring in somebody. But Russell Wilson could still be here. We'll see. They also have, if they did move on from Wilson, they have the bridge to move on from. To start Jared Stidham for a year as well. So certainly a possibility for the Broncos. Larry Archer said Jerry will go to the Lions. That would be a fun one. I would love to see him on the. I would really love to see Jerry Jeudy on the Dolphins. That would be pretty fun. We already have some of their picks, right? We could have a few more. So I don't know, it'll be fun to follow. And I do think it ends up being, in the end, Jerry Jeudy who has moved. Most likely after that, Sutton, Jewell, Simmons, Bowles, and maybe a DJ Jones, although the injury kind of throws a wrench in that a bit. But yeah, Gary says 8 batted balls against KC. 8. Yeah, they were definitely looking for that, and not great on that one. But yeah, we got Lance coming in saying, "Isn't the running game the best counter to measure cover 2?" It is, but also you still need to be able to pass through the cover 2 unless you're getting explosives out of those run looks. And Broncos haven't really been that effective in that. They ran the ball more than they ran through it in this last game against KC as well. But it's, as you guys have seen, it's really hard to create those explosives with the run game to, get those, 60-yard touchdown, 40-yard touchdown kind of things in the run game. And eventually you'll make a mistake. You got to be able to throw the ball. His passing league is paraphrase what Sean Payton said after the game. The passing game wasn't good enough and got to be able to get through some of those. Got Isaiah Stacks coming in. I'll say another quarterback like Jaden Daniels. I think Jaden Daniels is a really good college quarterback. I don't really know about him in the NFL as a early pick. I think he'll take a shot, but he's a little bit of a college, looks like a really good college quarterback to me. I don't know about the NFL style. Pearl Heater comes in and asks, what about Cushenberry? Cushenberry could be a trade option as well. He's been playing well this season. Center's such a hard one to trade because of how much, the chemistry between the snaps matter and how much the, understanding the verbiage and the just chemistry of the offensive line. Trading a center mid-season, I'm going to be honest with you. I can't think of a single center trade off the top of my head that's happened in season. And probably those factors are a big reason why. But certainly possible. We'll see. We'll see what happens with that one. Anybody on a 1-year contract could happen. Troy Bauer coming in here saying, "Hey Nick, I'm late today." That's okay. Because we're not going to be on too much longer. I thought I'd only go 30 minutes and we haven't even talked too much draft yet. And my voice is already starting to, so hopefully get a little better here. Looks like great weather. Wilson is not the problem, but cannot risk his injury guarantee. Have a good show. Yeah, I'm not at the bench Russell Wilson point yet. I mean, if he plays, 4 more games in a row like that Kansas City one, he probably have to make the move. But not there yet. He was playing pretty well to start the season. I mean, top 12 quarterback level. Granted, the defenses they were playing were not very good, but he's done enough to, I think, still warrants some time, in my opinion. I don't think that's a question at this point. If you have 6, 7 games left and you are still a 1-win team and he looks like he did against Kansas City, maybe you do need to make that move for Stidham just to protect yourself to move on from him. But yeah, that was that Kansas City game was dreadful. That looked like Russell Wilson of last season, which was not good enough to get it done. We got Mike Edel coming in and said, "I don't think we should trade any of our players in the AFC for low picks from contenders." Then you might not trade him. Mike, that's certainly, your prerogative. I think at this point, you just got to take the best deals you can. I would be hesitant to trade guys to your division, but as far as your conference, I think if they give you the best deal, then I would be about that. So we'll see. And Colin said it's sad, already looking forward to the offseason. Yeah, how does it keep getting worse? You guys don't even know. I mean, I don't even know what's going on. Um, yeah, it's yeah, send Jerry to the Patriots, let the hoodies straighten them out. I mean, Patriots are the one team that's more offensive, more defunct teams right now than the Broncos, especially offensively. The Patriots and the Steelers. Oh my God, talk about abysmal offenses. But last 10 minutes or so here, do want to talk a little bit of the NFL draft. So we got the Broncos here, and I can share on Tankathon here, just kind of show you guys where the Broncos are at right now. So hopefully you can see that. I can zoom in a little bit as well. So there we go. Broncos currently sitting there with oh, you guys can't see it. There we go. Broncos currently sitting there with the third overall pick according to Tankathon. 1-5 record along with the Bears, Cardinals, Giants, and Patriots. I think it's pretty, and only two teams with 2 wins right now, the Minnesota Vikings and the Tennessee Titans. With where the Broncos are at right now, it does seem like a team that is destined for a top 10 pick. I just can't imagine them getting to a point. You got Green Bay with 2 wins too there, but I can't imagine them getting to a point where they're winning, 7 games, 6 games. You're probably talking about a team. I mean, 4 more wins through the rest of the season means they're playing nearly 500 football. And with the schedule getting that much harder, I just can't really see it. So you're probably talking about a team that's winning 2 to 5 games. That puts them in the 1 overall to 10 to 12 overall range. It's going to be pretty hard for the Broncos to. I think they are better teams, honest to God, than the Panthers, than the Bears, than the Giants, than the Patriots. So we will continue to monitor those teams, but you're definitely pulling for some wins there. I was really hoping the Giants could pull one off yesterday against Buffalo to kind of kick them down a peg as well. But currently not the case. So the Broncos sit there at 3. If this was how the board was right now, I would fully expect somebody to come up, and this would honestly be an extremely intriguing board for the Broncos because if the Bears had the first and second pick, they are taking a quarterback, Caleb Williams, and probably then trading off that 2 spot to have for a team to come up and get a quarterback. I think Chicago in this scenario would love for it to be Denver to move up to that 2 spot to get the quarterback that the Bears don't take, because then the Bears could guarantee themselves Marvin Harrison Jr. But could the Broncos be a team that would be interested in that move? I mean, if I was Denver, I really love Drake May. I love Caleb Williams. But in order to move up from 3 to 2, you're probably giving up your first round pick next season. And we already talked about if you're next year, the Broncos could be potentially even worse, the huge dead cap hit moving on from a lot of these guys. I would not be giving up your first round pick in 2025, pretty much no matter what. So in this scenario, I think the Broncos probably do get jumped by a team picking their 4, 5, 6, 7 to get to number 2 overall. And then you're sitting there at 3. I would probably take Marvin Harrison Jr. Who are the guys that play right now for the Broncos at the top? If they're picking 1 or 2, I think it would be the quarterback, Caleb Williams or Drake May. A lot of people like Caleb Williams a lot more than Drake May. I think it's because USC is just much more marketable, and May has a flashier style, Caleb has a flashier style, but don't sleep on Drake May. Big quarterback, big arm, does a lot of NFL things already. Asked to make a lot of NFL throws and really good pocket manipulation for a big athlete. I can't remember who it was. Maybe it was Bruce Feldman this last week who compared Drake May to Ben Roethlisberger. So just a big athlete. I don't remember what Ben Roethlisberger exactly looked like immediately coming out of Miami, Ohio, but he was pretty good. Yeah, we have Gary coming in saying Chicago won't take both Caleb or May. Yeah, I think pick number 2 would be very much for sale for the Bears in this scenario. Could be Arizona and Patriots looking to move up there and get that. Could be fun. Yeah, and we got Gatorade Gaming coming up and said if they take Marvin Harrison Jr. anyway, they could easily just take him at 2. That's going to be a big debate in Chicago if it does end up playing like this. Is it better to, move down and still get a top pick in the draft with like a lot more assets, or go all in on Marvin Harrison Jr.? I think the wise thing would be to trade and still get a top, 6, 7 pick in this class with more assets than just take Marvin Harrison Jr. But they're going to surely debate it, and that would be a very fun one. Broncos could also, we also got Clyde coming in saying they could trade down. They definitely could trade down from 3. It would have to be an absolute haul for me to move down. I would still need to have a pick that was in the top 6 or 7. I'm not trading down from 3 to like 16. No, thank you. You need difference makers on this team, and I don't think you're going to get one at 16. So it still needs to be a top pick. And once the quarterbacks go, the draft value drops a bit. You're probably looking more like what Arizona got for Anderson last year. So moving down from 3 to 6 and picking up a future 1. I think that's probably what you look at in this scenario if the Broncos did move down from 3. Who are we looking at, though? Who are the players right now that are some good guys? And Gary Palmer coming in and also saying, good morning, Nick and Scott in Broncos country. Good to see you. Let's look at what Tankathon has here for the big board. So this is not my big board per se, of course, but what Tankathon has here right now with their top guys. They have number 1 overall being Caleb Williams. I think the Broncos have the first overall pick. You do go with Caleb. There will be some conversation about Drake May, but Drake May is probably still a little bit off there. Number 2 for me would be Drake May. If you're picking 1 or 2, I think you got to take the quarterback there, unless somebody offers you something like preposterous. Like let's say you're sitting there at 2 overall, and the Vikings are there at 5 and offer you Justin Jefferson plus 5 overall. Okay, now I'm interested because even though we're far away, like, and even though you have to pay Justin Jefferson, he's one of the best players in football. But that's like Vikings would probably, be cold, hard, dead in the ground before they would do something like that. But that's probably what I'd be looking at. It needs to be a top pick. All first rounders are not the same. Like, let's say Buffalo offers you a first and it's talking about pick 28 or something. A lot different than Vikings offer you pick 7. So it needs to be something valuable there. After that, and I see the comments coming in here now, we're starting to talk a little draft. Love that, guys. But after with Marvin Harrison Jr., I think you have a conversation for offensive tackle. Olu Fashanu from Penn State is certainly somebody who stands out there. He'd be the 4th on my board for the Broncos right now. Even though the Broncos are in a really weird spot with their tackles, I think you probably just take the tackle and figure it out and put him in there somewhere. Maybe Olu or Alt play guard for a year, and then you kick him out, moving on from McGlinchey or Bowles. Maybe move on from Bowles. But tackle's a really weird spot for the Broncos because Garrett Bowles is playing solid football right now. And it does seem like the Broncos are actually leaning more and more towards keeping him, given his level of play this season, reworking the contract and keeping him. And you're stuck with Mike McGlinchey next season. So, like, the only pathway I see to obvious playing time on this team on the offensive line for 2024 is if you move on from Garrett Bowles, which could happen. He's been good, not great. He's expensive. He's getting older, but I'm not sure that they do that right now. And then also, if you're talking about, let's say you take Olu Fashanu and you keep Bowles, you keep McGlinchey, well, you're already pretty happy with your guards too, right? So are you moving Powers to right guard with Miners kicking to center? Are you moving Miners to center with your first round offensive tackle playing right guard? I mean, the offensive line's in a weird spot right now because outside of Garrett Bowles and obviously Cushenberry, there's not a lot of spots with obvious upgrades unless you're talking about benching Mike McGlinchey in his huge contract, which I guess is possible if you just simply take the best talent. But offensive line's a weird one for the Broncos. I'm never against taking one early per se, especially a tackle, but could be interesting. We got Kenneth Booker coming in saying, is there a left tackle worth a first round or a top 3 pick? I think Olu Fashanu in last season would have been a top 3 pick, but this year with the 2 quarterbacks and Marvin Harrison Jr., he will not go that high. So he'd be 4th overall on my board. I think he's a blue chip caliber player. But in this class, don't think he goes top 3 because the guys that are there. So yeah, we will keep it going here. Oh, hopefully my mouse isn't dead. Nope, we're good. We got Nathan Cottis and Denver wasn't always the places that he said places what are implications if they draft, and he says no. There was like a fake rumor that was going around Facebook and stuff saying Williams would say yes to only these 4 teams. It was like the Giants, Bears. I can't even remember the other. Oh, the Cowboys. It was fake, if that's what you're talking about, Nathan. But I think there hasn't been anything actually substantial about where Williams would not go other than his dad talking a little bit about Arizona without naming them. Kenneth also comes in and says, what kind of draft pick does Bowles fetch? You're probably talking about third rounder in terms of value. It might be like, 2/4 or something like that with a 2025 thrown in, but probably a third rounder given the contract. Maybe he's been playing good football though right now. I don't know if I'd just be looking to get rid of him for nothing. And it seems like the Broncos are okay with him as well. Keeping it moving though, we have a few more offensive tackles that are worth talking about. Of course, we got they mentioned J.C. Latham here, but there's Mims from Georgia, who is somebody that I would keep an eye on. He is very young, but man, he's got a lot of talent potential. He's been injured right now, but he's extremely young. Keep an eye on him. He could definitely be a riser and somebody that has started to get a lot of hype over the last year or this season. If you get a chance to watch Oregon State, the Beavers, they have a right tackle named Talise Fuaga. He is 6'6", 340 pounds, and he has been one of my favorite offensive linemen to watch this season because, my God, he just is an absolute ass kicker out there, in my opinion. So a couple offensive tackles to keep names on. I would not have J.C. Latham up here, as this big board says, but keeping Mims on Georgia and Fuaga at Oregon State in mind. After that, you're probably talking wide receivers. Of course, Marvin Harrison Jr. is number one, but number two is interesting on this upcoming class. If the Broncos are picking, 8 through 12, whether that be because they win some games or they trade down, you could see the Broncos looking to add a wide receiver to this room, especially with how obvious it seems they're looking to move on from Judy, Patrick, and Sutton. That leaves you Mims and Brandon Johnson. You need another pass catcher in there in that scenario. And you're not paying that room very much. So maybe it is one where you take a wide receiver early. There are right now, I'd say, 4 names who are all really could be in the conversation for wide receiver 2 right now. You got Rome Odunzia. I'm going to have to work on some of these pronunciations. But he is the wide receiver number 1 from Washington who had an unbelievable game versus Oregon this week against a cornerback that a lot of people are talking about round number 1 for Oregon, former Alabama transfer, 6'3", had a really good game against Colorado, whose name's escaping me. But Rome had an amazing game with Michael Penix on the end. You have Keon Coleman from Florida State, who was a transfer from Michigan State, having probably had more highlight reel catches this season than anybody so far. You got Malik Neighbors from LSU is a name you want to keep an eye on as well. And then I'm going to throw this name in here as a wide receiver, even though he's not listed truly as a wide receiver. But I think I'm going to incorporate Brock Bowers in the wide receiver 2 conversation as well, given how much he is playing detached from the line of scrimmage, how much he is in the route formations. I think Brock Bowers is a pass catcher and a potential wide receiver 2 option in this class. So you guys have probably noticed I've only talked about offense so far in the draft. That's where most of the talent is. I know the Broncos need defense, but I mean, you're looking at this board right now. If you can see it right here, Jared Verse is listed the first guy. Then you got Kool-Aid McKinstry, cornerback, Alabama, Dallas Turner, Johnny Newton here. This is a offensive heavy draft. I don't like the order of the off defensive guys here personally. And I don't think I'd have them, the guys that they have listed here, as high as they do. My number 1 defensive prospect in this class would be Dallas Turner. I think he's a top 8 pick, and he should be the first guy off the board. In my opinion, you do have Jared Verse right there as well. Chop Robinson from Penn State, and also Latu Latu, edge rusher from UCLA, also in the mix. But as far as top 10 picks on defense this season, it really is probably only edge rushers you're talking about. I don't think I would take Kool-Aid McKinstry. I think he's fine, but I think he's more of a mid to late first round kind of guy. Cooper DeJean is a good player as well from Iowa, but he's probably a guy who goes from like pick 12 to 20. Same with the Kool-Aid McKinstry. Kalen King is also in that range, and I don't think there's a truly unbelievable defensive tackle in this class as well. I see they got Johnny Newton listed here, but I think he's more mid first round kind of guy in this class. He's a little bit small. He's not the biggest body type, so he's probably going to have to play a little bit more 3 technique, 4-eye in the league, and that makes him not as versatile in my opinion, and somebody that I'm all about bringing in for the Broncos. So we'll see how it plays out for them. But yeah, I'm not overwhelmed with the defensive talent in this class right now from the guys that I've seen. You can see us scrolling down here, talked about almost all these guys. Chop Robinson there, Cooper DeJean, Kalen King, Latu. So yeah, that's kind of where the Broncos are at right now. with this draft class. And I'm going to get to some of these questions coming in here now. We've been talking about it a bit. Jeremy says, who names their kid Kool-Aid? I'm sure it's a nickname at that, and I'm sure we'll get into that at some point. This is my son, Heinz 57. I mean, if they're paying for the hospital expenses, then, name them what you want. Gatorade Gaming said, I saw a report that Caleb Williams wants new ownership stake in the team that drafts him. I don't think that's true. Kevin Gray saying, hi, Nick. Big Mile High salute. Denver Broncos for life. Good to see you. We got Leroy coming in and say, if we draft a quarterback in the first round next year, is he starting right away? Do you think Williams and May are ready for the big show? I think that May is closer to being ready than Williams is, because Williams needs to learn to play more within structure and timing wise, and rather than hitting the Madden style constantly. He can do that, and I think he's got the ability to do that too. I think he's a smart kid, but that he hasn't shown the ability to play on script and on time so far, and you got to do that in the NFL. So I actually think Drake May is closer to being ready day one than Caleb Williams, but both of them. You have Jarrett Stidham already on contract, and with how the roster is probably going to be set up next season, you probably want to give them a little bit of time, maybe not even start out the gate, just to protect them some and give them some time. And I think I would have no issue next season if the Broncos did end up getting Williams or May and earning a number 1 or number 2 overall pick. If you started with a Jarrett Stidham just to protect them and give them a little bit of time. Not really a fair situation for anybody involved, the Jarrett Stidham or that rookie. If they're not ready, fans will be calling for them. Jarrett Stidham's playing just okay. Fans will be calling for their head. But it's probably where I'm at right now from a more conservative approach. We got K-Hop coming in saying, what round do you think J.J. McCarthy goes, Nick? If he comes out, he's going round 1. Talented kid, really just a natural arm talent, good athlete as well, doing a lot of line checks and stuff. It's hard because Michigan hasn't really been tested. He can just lean on the offensive line all games. It's going to be hard to get a good read on J.J. McCarthy, kind of like Anthony Richardson last year. Just like, the volume of throws is not super high. So you're going to have to really extrapolate based on the, few a game that you get that are really worthwhile. But I think if he does come out, he's round 1. He's just too talented. And he might not come out. He could be in play for a 2025 first overall pick if he doesn't come out. So, yeah, definitely keeping an eye on J.J. McCarthy. They got some games coming up. Ohio State, of course, and Penn State probably has the best defense in the Big Ten. So, and then, of course, playoffs, et cetera, et cetera. So, assuming Michigan gets there. So, McCarthy will be interesting to follow for sure. He's my quarterback 3 right now, but that is in pencil. Ian Logan coming in and saying, I'm on the Drake May team. Caleb is a main talent, but he gets 8 seconds to throw the guys 5 yards open. That ain't happening in the NFL. I don't think it'll happen in the NFL either, but I also don't think he'll always play like that. The fact that he is right now is obviously working for him, but it will not work in the NFL, which adds risk without a doubt. But I mean, you had Trevor Lawrence at North Clemson throwing guys, that are pretty wide open as well, running a high school level offense in terms of the concepts. So you got to do the best you can to extrapolate. And I think Caleb, from what I've heard, is an extremely hardworking and intelligent kid. So I think he can get it. It just might mean the transition is a little bit shaky early on, but I don't think it's impossible for him to get there in terms of playing in time and in the pocket. Eric Henson saying, you think for sure we go quarterback with our first pick? I know that's probably the best thing to do, but I really want Harrison if he were to come out. I think if you're picking 1 or 2, you got to take a quarterback unless somebody offers you something stupid in terms of draft picks and players back. I mean, the bar that Carolina just set, or the Bears just set with, the DJ Moore plus the number 8 overall pick plus the first round pick this year, plus more even, I think still. I would want more than that because I think Drake May and Caleb Williams are better quarterback prospects than Bryce Young. Even though Bryce Young went 1, I don't care. It's yesterday's price is not today's price. So I'd want even more than what the Bears got. So if I'm moving off of that, I need an unbelievable package from a team to move on. And I just don't know if teams would be willing to do that. I mean, I need a superstar building block player plus 2, another top 10 pick plus more. So if someone wants to pay that, then we'll see. We got the hashtag Drake Mays coming in here. He started off slow against Miami last week, and then all of a sudden it kicked on for him. Man, pretty fun. Ryan Thompson says, good morning, Broncos country. I'd rather have May over Williams. I'd be happy with either. Honest to God. Alicia says, good morning, MHH family. Eric, now I see where Eric's coming from. He says, overrated, bad attitude, entitlement, boomer sooner. Yeah, I mean, I don't blame Caleb Williams for moving with Lincoln Riley. We got Jesse C coming in saying Ewers, his best ball is to be played in the NFL. I think he's Jay Cutler-ish. I wish he's a little bit thicker and a little bit better athlete. But yeah, he's interesting without a doubt. I'm not quite there with him just yet, though. Austin Ryder's in the house saying, yo. And Dante said, if we draft quarterback high, does that fix our problem? Dante, no single player in this draft is going to fix the Broncos' problem. They're a team that is devoid of a lot of talent right now, and it is going to take time and patience to get there. If you draft a quarterback in this class, you're hoping you draft somebody who is a part of the problem when eventually enough pieces around them are correct. So that's the big thing with, Russell Wilson's been playing fine, trade down and, build around Wilson. Well, your window then is what, 2-3 years at best? And then you're talking about future draft picks who won't even be contributing until, that window is even smaller and they're not guarantees. And even then, those draft picks, a lot of times, they don't really start to hit their stride until years 2 or 3. So you're already talking about being outside the Russell Wilson window by the time a trade down really starts to help the team out. So why take the quarterback now? Is because even the trade downs, it seems unlikely that you are going to be able to build a competent roster in time to be a contender with Wilson, given the timeline. And these quarterbacks are really good. So how does a quarterback draft high fix your problem? You get a guy in here who actually is a franchise quarterback. You have an option there for 10 to 15 years where you can roll the dice and build different ways around them and hopefully still, eventually get it right. It's going to be always hard for the Broncos with Mahomes and Herbert in the division. But if you have that guy there, at least you give yourself a chance. And the window would be much longer than what you have right now with Russell Wilson, who is a diminishing asset, so to speak. So hopefully you don't get yourself a Joe Flacco or a Teddy Bridgewater, but there's always a Teddy Bilgewater. But there is always a possibility. There's no guarantees. We got Pearl Heater coming in saying, fun show, Nick. Lars saying Shadir could be the guy we need. I think he's coming back, so we could be talking about him in 2025, but we'll see. We'll see. Miranda coming in, still a gamble at drafting quarterback, but fans won't be happy with anything else. If they're picking one or two, it better be a quarterback unless it's an unbelievable trade down. But you should be happy with a lot of these guys otherwise. It's a pretty good class. We got J.M. Warnell saying Hartman and Penix have won a lot of games under the belt. Anyone else? Seems to be a correlation with young quarterbacks who have had multiple years starting at college. It used to be, I think it's a little bit less nowadays. But like you had, I guess it's too early to say for sure, but like Anthony Richardson only started 1 year and he was looking pretty damn good out there. So that's certainly a possibility. I think Sam Hartman just lacks the arm, to be completely honest. He's a college quarterback, but he just doesn't have enough power behind his arm to be a good NFL quarterback. I think he'll end up being, backup for many years, but you're talking about a day 3 kind of guy there. Penix does have the arm. The issue with him is the age and the injuries. So we'll see what happens with him, but he's certainly one who teams could just overthink and overlook a little bit. It's also hard because Washington's style of offense is not super comparable to the NFL right now, what they're doing. And he's surrounded with really good weapons. So Penix has been great, though. Let's say K-Hop saying, let's do a mock draft for all the Broncos NFL players who are retired. That would be fun at some point. Ryan Thompson also says tackle. We talked a little bit earlier, but tackle is weird because of Garrett Bowles and Mike McGlinchey's contract situations. If the Broncos do it, it's probably Garrett Bowles out or somebody at guard for a year or just outright benching a player. But I'm not against it per se because there are some really good tackles in this class, and having a good one for a long time is a excellent team building block. So we'll certainly follow it. But if you guys have any other questions about the draft, make sure you guys hit me up on Twitter. I can talk draft all day at Nick Kendell MHH. Also, make sure you guys are following us at Mile High Huddle. If you haven't done so yet, join us at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. And of course, as the ticker says here underneath, please subscribe to the show, like on YouTube, and share it on all your social media platforms. Time for me to get on out of here. Voice is starting to a little sore, but from the hour long, I thought I'd go, only half an hour to 45 minutes, but here we are in an hour. And J.R. Capron coming in saying Dylan Gabriel from OU thoughts. Another guy, probably a day 3 pick, backup quarterback type. Again, just there's when you watch enough NFL quarterbacks at the college level, and watching Josh Allen in college, or like even like Jared Goff in college. Uh, God, who are some other recent ones? Obviously Trevor Lawrence in college, Patrick Mahomes in college. Like there's an arm talent level that you're looking for at the spot. And I don't think, your Sam Hartmans or your Dylan Gabriels have that level of velocity behind their arm to be NFL quarterbacks. So obviously things happen, and I've been wrong about my evaluations before, but you watch enough guys and you kind of just watch them quickly and be like, okay, that's an NFL arm. That's not an NFL arm. Now, from there, you have to, the pocket ability, the ability to go through reads, the accuracy, the timing, the extra stuff they can do, creating beyond the play. That's fine. But um, typically I go off, can I see, that 10, 15 yard out? What does the ball look like on that one? You have an idea if that's an NFL starting caliber arm or not. There are guys who are borderline. Jordan Travis, I see a comment here from Michael Ronquillo. Jordan Travis' arm is okay. It's because of his athleticism too, to boot. I think it's probably somebody who maybe could do it at the NFL. I don't know if I see a good quality, upper tier first round prospect in Jordan Travis, but something like that. So yeah, guys, be a lot of fun. We're gonna have a chance to talk a lot about quarterback and the stuff this offseason. So appreciate you guys so much. I'm gonna get on out of here. I gotta go walk the dog and get ready for a week in Colorado. Haven't been there since getting married in 2019. So appreciate everyone. Hope everyone has a good rest of your week. I will not be here again for a bit because I'll be out there in Colorado and I will not have service. But we'll see you guys at the meet and greet. And until then, you guys have a great one. Always choose kindness and compassion. And of course, go Broncos.